Now,
Mm.
here's the thing. This is a healthcare facility. These people should have more empathy, not less. If you don't have empathy for the people that keep you running and that are patient facing, then what the heck are you doing in medicine? And that's the moment I was like, that is it. This cannot stand. These people are insane. We need to figure out what's going on here.
When you look back in hindsight, everything is 2020. In hindsight, we make mistakes, we're learning from it. In hindsight.
Welcome to Hindsight, the podcast. I'm Lee Jones, your host. And look, when empathy is missing, results suffer in ways spreadsheets can't show. Today, we're proving why soft skills, I like that, deliver hard results. Dr. Melissa Robinson Weinmiller isn't just talking about leadership, she's challenging us to do it differently. With over 20 years of cross-industry experience, Melissa helps leaders build emotionally intelligent cultures that perform. A TEDx speaker, EQ coach, and the author of Empathic Leader, she blends research, lived experiences, and actionable strategies to make empathy the future of leadership. Good morning. Where are you calling in from?
I'm in Oklahoma, so it's
Okay,
central
yeah.
and it's definitely morning. Yeah.
I'm calling in from Cali, so it's 8 o'clock here. So I guess it's 10
Oh,
o'clock there, you know,
yeah.
your time. So yeah. And Dr. Melissa, so I'm gonna put it to you like this. Me and Melissa, we go way back. So I definitely want to recognize and we go way back like a couple days ago. Uh
Hey, some people you feel like you've known your whole life, and some
Oh
people you
yeah.
feel like you wish you hadn't. So I'm glad I'm in the first category and not the second. I hope.
I know that's right. So I just want to acknowledge and not try to depreciate. You know, you are a doctor, but for the sake of today, you're my friend, you're my buddy. We're going to go through some things. We're going to talk about your life a little bit and what it is that you're doing now to help others live more passionately, more meaningfully. And I'm going to call you Melissa. Is that okay?
Perfect. I
Are
prefer
we
it.
good?
Yeah, we're real
Oh,
good.
good. So tell us just a little bit about yourself. This is
So
hindsight, by the way.
yes, so we're going back in the Wayback Machine, right? Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I do empathy and leadership now, and I do a lot of
Mhm.
corporate stuff. But in the past, I was a professional musician. I was a French
Oh,
hornist. I played in orchestras. I sang with the band. I played piano. That's what I did. Music was my whole life. I loved it. It was like, it's one of those things that's really encompasses your whole life. And I'm
yeah.
very blessed because music gave me the opportunity to do things and see places and meet people I wouldn't have otherwise. I got to work with Ray Charles. I got to work with
Oh,
David Ogden Stiers, he was Winchester on MASH, and he was Cogsworth
yeah.
in Beauty and the Beast, and he was all over the place. I got to work with Mannheim Steamroller. And I mean, like you and I were talking, I was the daughter of an enlisted military guy. So it's not like these were my circles. you know,
Yeah.
it gave me lots of opportunity, but it also doesn't always pay the bills, and I'm addicted to food, shelter, and clothing. So so I went and
Aren't we
got
all?
right? I mean, that makes things much nicer when you're fed and housed and have benefits. So I got my first doctorate, moved out to the West Coast, and started as a professor. But within my very first term, I was assaulted by one of my colleagues, which,
Mm,
considering that I was really removed from anybody or anything I had known, you know, was difficult. And over the next 7 years, things devolved. It just kind of got worse. But the thing is even though that was bad, I mean, I wouldn't wish anybody to go through some of what I went through. It allowed me to look around and say, what is wrong here? What's going on with this system that people don't want to listen or can't listen or would rather protect this guy than hear what's really happening and watch this happen over and over again. So, I mean, long story short, by the end of it, it ended my career, which was a
mm,
really hard thing because it was the only thing I had ever known. So I did some other
okay.
stuff for a while, and I did some consulting with my husband, and I kept seeing these patterns reemerge where, there just was not the connection and understanding between people in leadership positions and the people that they were supposed to be leading. And it wasn't just hurting the employees. I mean, that was always my big thing. But I mean, it was also reducing profit. It was reducing innovation. It was
Yeah.
reducing productivity. And more often than not, it hurt the person doing it in the end as well. So I just kept asking, what the heck? And finally decided this empathy path was the way to go. So I'm back now. I'm doing my dissertation on my second doctorate. And my goal is to be the empathy lady and bring this to the forefront.
Wow. All right, so you blaze through, and I know I said keep it brief. You blaze through the bad part
Yeah.
of what happened to you in those 7 years after. How was your mindset during that time period? 7 years is a long time, but when you look back, hindsight is like, oh, it went by like this, right? How was your mindset at the time? And I'm not saying right after the incident happened because obviously, you know what I mean? But going through it and understanding that people weren't there for you. The system was the system, right? And it wanted to protect the assaulter and not protect the victim, right? So, how were you able to maneuver through that time period?
You know, I think a lot of it was just naivety. I actually
Mhm.
thought that if I just kept going. So, just to set it up, when I brought this to the guy who was my boss and the boss of this other person, I was told as junior female faculty if I was stirring up trouble in my first term that I was never going to get tenure. Well,
Mm,
this tells you about his mindset because at that point I didn't care about tenure. What I cared about is that his office was right next to mine and he knew when I was coming and going. I had to see him in faculty meetings. I had to see him every single day. So, I mean, that tells you right there where their mindset was. So, naively, I go to his boss and was told if I didn't like it there, I could leave,
mm,
which I
mm.
mean, think about it. I
Yeah,
was a French horn professor. How many French horn professors have you known?
yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's not like I could just jump to another job. There aren't
Right.
many. So the thing is that I think the naivety kept me going because I talked to HR, I talked to the union, I talked to the ombuds, I talked to whoever would listen.
Wow.
I talked to everybody except the authorities, which is probably who I should have gone to first. But I actually
Mm,
believed that if I just kept going, I would find someone who would hear what I was trying to say. And what I learned is that when a system is that broken and that far gone, that I'm not the only victim. These people can't hear me because they're also victims of this system that keep people down and keep people quiet, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. You said you lost your job after those 7 years.
Yeah.
What happened there? If you don't mind, if I ask you a question and you're like, "Lee, that's too much." Pop
No.
the brakes on me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you. I mean, the thing is I'm not the only one who's gone through this. So there's probably people in your audience
Right.
that are going, yeah, yeah, I remember this. I know this happened to someone. I've felt this myself. So, I don't mind sharing. So in the academic community, you go up for tenure, right? And when you go up for
Mhm.
tenure, that's the point at which either they hand you your papers and you leave, or you become a full professor, which means ideally in the past that they couldn't fire you. It was job protection. And when you go up for tenure, you bring everything you've done. For a musician, I had recordings of performances, I had solo stuff, I had letters, I had stuff I had written, I had all of the class stuff I had done. I mean, we're talking like banker boxes full of stuff. And a lot of it is irreplaceable, right? It's single copies of things. And you turn it all in, the tenure committee looks at this, they decide thumbs up, thumbs down. Well, they didn't give me tenure, which isn't a huge shock. But just to add to it, they also managed to lose all of these materials. I went to pick them all up and they were just gone. And like I said, some of this stuff I couldn't get back. Some of this
Mm,
stuff was single copies and things from people that had since passed or weren't even in their job anymore or that kind of thing. So they denied me tenure, which meant I was on my way out the door anyway. But then they kind of kicked me when I was down just because.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, they had an opportunity. So, Melissa, this is a sensitive question I'm asking,
Okay.
right? So you had the thing happen, horrible. After that, maybe you a little salty? Were you a little, uh Were you classified as a troublemaker at that point? And do you think that they took that opportunity to remove what they felt was a troublemaker from their midst?
Oh, yeah.
How do you and this is all hindsight. So you're looking back and like, okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I was told
Yeah.
I was shaking the boat. I was stirring the waters. I was trying to do things in ways that they didn't want. But the interesting thing is that on one hand, I'm this troublemaker that, you know, obviously just shows up to make everybody else miserable. And the
Mhm.
problem is once my colleagues heard this often enough, some of them started to believe it, which was a problem. But on the flip side of that, I was
Yeah.
supposedly lazy. I wasn't doing anything. I was never in my office. I wasn't a team player. So it's like I must be spending an awful lot of time being a troublemaker to be that lazy on all of this other stuff. And if I'm that
Mm,
lazy, how did I have all this material to turn in when I went up for tenure? So
mm.
they kind of had me coming and going because no matter what I did, they didn't want me
Yeah.
there. If I couldn't be quiet, they wanted me gone.
Yeah. It's kind of hard, looking at the mentality on both sides and then you looking back and probably reliving things. You said you were a little naive in the beginning of that. And like you said, there are people who go through situations like this and they get stuck or their mindset. I mean, hell, we see things going on in the news now where people come back and take revenge, right?
Yeah.
How were you able to keep your sanity when it seemed like no one really wanted to hear it? I'm sure you had somebody that was on your side, but overall the decision makers, the institution itself was not there for you. And ultimately they were able to pluck you from their midst. So how were you able to keep your sanity?
In the moment, I didn't do very well. Um,
Mhm.
there was a lot of drinking that happened during that time,
Mm. Okay.
and they succeeded in keeping me quiet. People outside didn't know. They didn't know what was going on. Most of them thought I was kinda crazy, because I would
Mhm.
just start crying for no reason, or I was on a short fuse a lot. But at the same time, the other thing I'd always done in my life was exercise. I was a gym rat and still am. And just to be able to have that community, I was a fitness instructor. I was a personal trainer. I was working with people that were outside of the university. And I had a couple fitness classes. I taught like a kickboxing class, I taught a weights class, I taught aqua aerobics, but this one weights class in particular, the people that were there, even though they didn't necessarily know what was going on, they really became like my family. And I mean, to this day, I think of them um, very fondly. And
Mhm.
they're I they may not know this, but I'm certain they're the only reason I survived.
Mm. And that is so important. And you talk about empathy, right? You're getting me emotional here, Melissa. I know we're going
No,
deep, but I'm hearing
it's
your
okay.
words. I'm feeling your pain. Um, but it is really important for us to extend that empathetic, is that, yeah, mindset towards
Yeah.
our fellow humans because you never know. Like I always tell people when you see somebody and not be weird about it, but hey, good morning, smile, just normal greetings. But then if it's someone who you know, and even if it's someone you don't know, focus and pay attention. Look at their mindset. And then you may have to ask that follow-up question. Are you okay? What's going on? Right? And that little bit of care can be the difference between someone losing it and someone taking that next step to getting over the hurdle that they're currently facing. You said it, but you didn't really say it. You said, you went through this at the institution and then you started working with other leaders. What moment made you realize empathy wasn't optional in leadership?
Oh, I guess I work really hard to make sure that I remember that it's positive that's come out of all of this. So I kind of feel like I'm trauma dumping here. I don't mean to,
Uh-huh.
but
Look at it.
here's
I got a little tears coming. No, anyway, go ahead. I tell you, we having talks and conversations today. So no, I
I
appreciate you,
know.
Melissa.
Yeah, no, seriously, because my goal is to help anybody that I can and whatever it takes, and if hearing my story helps somebody, even just so
Yeah.
that they don't feel like they're alone, then that's what I'll do. That's why I do what I do. So,
Mhm.
because it's not like studying empathy has a clear path. So what happened, I had gotten out of what I was doing. I was grieving it a lot like a death because music I mean, like I said, my dad was career military. We moved every 2 years. So I didn't
Mhm.
have a lot of stability in my life, but I had my music. Everywhere we went, that came with me. So when I finally had to let go of it and really walk away, it really was like a death to me.
Mm.
Because it
Yeah.
just it's something that's consuming. And then
Mhm.
COVID hit, and I was at that point working, for a healthcare facility, doing some work, and I ended up with pulmonary emboli, so blood clots in the lungs. If they go to your
Okay.
brain or to your heart, you get a heart attack or you get a stroke and you die, or you could end up a vegetable or I mean, it's really bad stuff, and it was just from the stress and everything that happened. This was like 3 or 4 years later, so I was just spun out. I couldn't figure out what I was gonna do next. I didn't know what was gonna happen. I hated this job. I got yelled at, like, from the patients and from the physicians, and it was just kind of a toxic place. But I show up the next morning after I'd been in the ER all night. They admitted me for overnight for observation and stuff, and I show back up to my job on Monday morning, and
Yeah.
my manager comes in, she's like, "What happened?" And I'm like, "Well, I had, these blood clots in my lungs, and I really need some time off to try and heal. This is really bad stuff. Now they have me on meds and I don't, my head is swimming and I need some time, but I just started this job. I don't have FMLA. I don't have any PTO. I don't have any time off."
Wow.
And this woman looks at me and gives me the pouty face and walks by. Now,
Mm.
here's the thing. This is a healthcare facility. These
Yeah.
people should have more empathy, not less. If you don't
Mhm.
have empathy for the people that keep you running and that are patient facing, then what the heck are you doing in medicine? And see, here I am. And that's the moment I was like, that is
Mm.
it. This cannot
Yeah.
stand. These people are insane. We need to figure out what's going on here. And that's when I finally dug my heels in and said, that's enough. This is stupid. This is really stupid.
Yeah. Wow. That is crazy. That is, I use the term crazy, not, it's weird to
Yeah.
hear that, but it's everywhere, right? It's either there or it's not there. You
Yeah.
either have a good toxic, not a good toxic, you either have a toxic environment or you have a good environment, good toxic.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
but what,
Yeah.
from your experience though, like what shows up first when empathy is missing in a workplace?
When you
That you,
walk in and you look at people, you can look at people and see it. These people are beaten down. These people look like they're tired and they've had enough. When you look at employee attrition, people are leaving. And then when you talk to the leadership and you ask them about their people, they're not able to give you an absolute answer. Because here's the
Mhm.
thing about empathy. Everybody thinks empathy is about feeling. And it is in part the I feel what you feel empathy. Yeah, that's one. There's 8 broad categories of empathy. There's 43 different kinds of empathy that have been identified over the years. The I feel what you feel is one. Empathy is actually about understanding and connecting. So as leaders, if I go walk in and I'm asking them about their people and they don't know, that means that they haven't understood or connected the people that they have underneath them. And that means there's a huge disconnect.
Mm. All right, you said that was one of 8. I mean, are you prepared to tell me what the other 7 are? Because, you know, I say that because you think like I'm empathetic, right? And it's like, oh
Yeah.
no, you're only 1/8 of the required empathy. You know, what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
what are the other 7 broad categories?
So I don't necessarily work in all 8 of them because we're talking about I
Okay.
mean, empathy is understanding and connecting. So it can be between species, how you feel for your dog or your
Yeah.
cat. It can be within species, how animals, have
Mm.
that understanding and connection with each other. There's empathy with nature. There's empathy, there's
Yeah, I
societal
got you.
empathy for large groups. So it empathy is this huge, broad, deep thing, and people don't really realize it. They think it's just feeling, and it's like, "No, no, 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 no. That's part of it. It's a really important part of it, but there's so much more that goes on here, you know? So the 3 that I
Yeah.
really dig in on is emotional empathy, which is the one we're talking about, cognitive
Mhm.
empathy, which is I logically understand what you feel, but I don't feel anything, which actually works well for
Mm.
leaders, and then self empathy, which is something that we don't actually have a ton of research on and that I'm kind of digging into a little more because I think this may be the key and how we can really jumpstart empathy in people to be able to have it for each other.
Mm.
Because if you can't have it for yourself, how are you going to have it for other people?
Man, you talk about empathy for nature and things like that. Like, I've grown up. I remember when I was young, you see a bunch of ants and you just stomp them. Now, I look at them and
Yeah.
it's so crazy, right? I look at the ants and I'm like, they're just trying to take care of their community. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, anyway, I try to be empathetic. Sometimes you're a little more selfish and you're in your own head and you only can focus on you because that's truly what you really honestly know is yourself and what you're thinking and what you're aspiring to do, right? But
Yeah.
you can be empathetic, and I understand what Melissa went through. I understand that she went through a hard time. I understand that they weren't kind to her or they weren't empathetic. I didn't go through that situation, but I understand. Can I give you one example?
Yeah, definitely.
Mine is always, and this is through youth. This is, I told you I was in the military. So I remember I was in a leadership position, I think I just made sergeant at the time. And there was a specialist who was late for formation. And he gave me an excuse. And I think I was kind of hard on him. I think. I can't remember. I'm 50 something years old. I can't remember. But I think I was
Yeah.
kind of hard on him, right? But then
Yeah.
the very next day, I was late for work. And I had an excuse. My alarm didn't go off. And
Yeah.
so it was through that lesson, like when things come up where I can judge you for this action. I try to hold back and I try to be more curious instead of
Yeah.
judgmental in those situations. And I give you grace. I give you the benefit of the doubt. I hear you out. Where before, and it's funny because I remember it was so, what do you call it? Karmatic. I just made that word up. It was like
Yeah.
karma. It's like you went off on this guy, and then the very next day you had a dumb excuse for being late for work. But I didn't get that type of, from my leaders because I was in that. It's weird, but my point is empathy. To me, there's lessons that you can learn every day. There are
Yes.
opportunities where you can be empathetic every day. And you make decisions whether to do it or whether not, right? So I say that because I want you to understand that Melissa's going to tell us a little bit more about what empathy really looks like. But I just want you to understand that you make the choice on what you do. But those choices affect people. They affect you. So make the choice wisely. Okay.
Yeah.
I got another question for you. Oh, go ahead. Follow up.
Well, just one thing, because you nailed it. You absolutely nailed it on the head because empathy and judgment cannot exist in the same space.
Mm.
So if anybody wants to know, am I showing empathy or not? If you feel that judgment creeping in, either for other people or for yourself, empathy can't exist in that place.
You just gave one. But what myths keep empathy out of leadership?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
The idea that having empathy makes you soft. That if you
I knew
have
that was the first one.
empathy, yep, well, you're a military guy,
Yeah.
you can't be soft, you have to be strong. I'm the leader, I'm in charge. This is how it is. Yeah, no, empathy does not make you soft. I mean, having empathy doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. Business has to get done. Empathy
Mm.
means you understand and connect. It's different. There's one floating around out there, I don't know where this came from, that empathy is feminine. So if you're masculine, yeah, for real though. I mean,
Yeah, no, I definitely believe you. We're making a turn around the corner. We're making a
yeah,
turn because it's touchy feely. Oh man, well, you're getting soft. You're getting weak.
right,
Go ahead.
right. No,
You're educating, but
absolutely.
I agree. I agree.
Well, okay, so there's a biological basis for empathy. So, like,
Mhm,
hopefully, most people have empathy. There are some that don't. They're dark triad,
mhm,
that's a whole different thing. But there is a biological basis. Empathy has, uh, a basis in psychology, neurobiology, biology, philosophy. It spans a lot of different things. So, when you have babies, newborn babies, right? They haven't had a chance to be environmentalized or anything like that, and they're in the ICU or neonatal or whatever, they when one starts crying, others will start crying. It's called emotional contagion, and it's just like a virus, right? One starts, the others
mhm,
catch it.
mhm,
That's proto-empathy. So we start super early. So there's no gender differentiation. There's no culture differentiation. We start in the same place. A lot of these ideas about empathy, like, oh, it's a feminine trait, that's instilled later. And it's totally wrong. I mean, that's right up there with, guys don't cry. Well, we know what that's
You
done
saw
for a
that
lot of.
tear. No.
Yeah. A lot of guys suffer because of those beliefs though.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Totally.
Wow.
Mhm.
Alright, so, I you said what is a dar you said dark triad?
Yeah.
What is a dark triad? What is that?
So the dark triad, it's behavioral. So it's not
Okay.
a dysfunction, it's not a disease, it's nothing like that. It's not a mental issue. But it's when
Mm,
people fall on a certain end of a behavioral spectrum that they don't have empathy or very little. Usually they're kind of
mm,
antisocial. A lot of times
mm,
they really just don't care about society or other people. There's a lot of other things that go into it. But these are going to be your narcissists, your sociopaths, your psychopaths, and Machiavellians. And these people, they figure now, are probably about 7% of society, which means 1 in 14, which means we all know them. And I'm not talking about the flippant,
yeah,
"Oh, he's being narcissistic." That's not. I'm talking
I
about a
know,
dyed
yeah.
in the wool, by definition, narcissist, psychopath, sociopath, Machiavellian. And they don't have any empathy. And that's your dark triad, because psychopaths and
Wow.
sociopaths are lumped together. So,
Okay. Alright, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you. Alright, I appreciate it because I hear things and I gotta deviate, I gotta know these things.
that's
But
all right.
to really sum it up, not the conversation, but just to finalize, to put it to rest, how do you define empathy in plain, practical terms?
Empathy is understanding and connection, period.
You said it earlier too.
Well, but I mean, people don't recognize it that way.
Yeah.
We've come to believe that it's all feeling. And yeah, that's a huge part of it, but it's not all of it.
Yeah. This next question kind of goes to maybe one of those myths about leadership and empathy, but like, what's the difference between empathy and people pleasing?
Oh, yeah. So, people pleasing with empathy, you are always in feeling with the other person, or not feeling necessarily, but within an understanding and connecting, right? The way I like to think of empathy is it's what allows me to get out of my bubble and into yours. There
Mhm,
isn't actually any action that has to happen. You're not taking responsibility. You're not trying to fix anything. You're not doing anything other than being in that place of understanding and connection with the other person. People pleasing, you're usually actively trying to do something to make the other person happy or have that other person like you.
mm,
So you've missed that ability to get into their bubble. You're not really
mhm,
trying to understand and connect with them. You're just trying to make them happy, trying to keep them from getting
mm.
mad, trying to, create a nice situation. One of the things I do talk about in my book is that there's a big difference between being nice and being kind. Empathy isn't always nice, but it's always kind. If you're people pleasing, you're trying to be nice. You're trying to smooth the social gears and make everything work well. And, oh, these people like me. And we do it. I do it. A lot of us do it. We're
Mhm,
socially programmed to
mhm,
do it. Empathy, if you're really being kind to somebody, sometimes you're not always very nice. For example,
mhm,
when you're doing employee evaluations, I know somebody who, and we all know somebody who doesn't say anything mean, but doesn't say anything constructive. She's being
Mm.
nice. Everything is very smooth, very even. She's not going to have any confrontation. Everything is
Yeah.
great. But kindness would say, I want to help my people grow. I want to help my people do better. I want to be able to help them to reach the next level. And that may mean telling them things that they don't want to hear or that could be
Yeah.
confrontational. It's not going to be especially nice, but it's going to be very kind.
Being in the military, retiring from the military, you understand different people need different things to motivate them to be able to accomplish what it is that they're there to do.
Yeah.
But I went through all of that preamble and I don't even remember what the question was.
It's all right. It'll come back later. It always
I
does.
know. It it'll come back. But,
Yeah.
at times I try to be empathetic, but I'm not even gonna say I try to be empathetic. I'll just use those words you just used. Keep it simple. I try to be kind to everyone. But you also, as a leader, you have all of these other things on your mind that have to get accomplished.
Yeah.
And then your person, your team, they come in and now it's a time to really stop, clear your mind, right? Be in the moment for this moment
Yeah.
with them. Like how what a, and I don't know if you can answer this question, but what is it's not even a strategy. How do you do that? How do you disconnect? I think I do a okay job because I think it's just in understanding that you have to. Like I'm working and they come in and they need more attention, but I'm still working and I'm doing half and half, so I'm not really capturing it. But then some says stop. Like, how do you get to that point where you understand that you just need to connect to that person? That's a long question. Do you get what I'm saying?
I think so. I think so. If I go off on a tangent, just stop me and we'll come back. How's
I
that?
just went on a tangent asking the question, so and I forgot it and then remembered. No, go ahead.
Hey, it's all good. No, it's such an for me, it's such a fascinating subject that it can go all over the place. So it's,
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
yeah. So I think the first thing from what I'm hearing you say is to have that's where self-empathy would come in. To
Mm,
say, yeah, I, maybe didn't give them the attention they needed last time. Next time I can do it, but I'm not judging myself for it. I'm not saying I'm doing this wrong. I am not, being hard on myself because of it. I'm just saying, okay, next time I think I can do this better. So leading up to self-empathy, there's a couple steps, right? The first is you have to have self-observation, which you did. You're observing, you're stepping outside of yourself and saying, okay, this is what I'm doing. From self-observation goes to self-reflection, which is exactly what you did. You turned the lens inward and you reflected on it. You said, okay, these were my actions. It's making me feel like maybe I'm not doing the leadership stuff that I could, that maybe I could be a better leader, that
mhm,
maybe there's something here that I'm missing. From self-reflection goes self-awareness. You turn the lens outward. Now you're looking at how you're impacting the people around you, right? Okay, this
mhm,
person actually needed me. I've reflected on this. I can see that maybe I could have done this better. This person actually needed me to be able to stop and be able to talk to them and be able to be in the moment with them, which is what empathy is. So self empathy now would say, okay, I understand what I did. I understand why I did it. That means that next time I can be aware of this situation, see what needs to happen, and say, okay, this is where I need to cut what I'm doing and turn my attention over here. So
mm,
you've gone
mhm,
through all the
mhm.
steps to be able to get there. And now that it's in your mind and you know what you think you need to do, next time you'll be primed to do that.
Yeah, you become aware of it.
Yeah.
It's funny, like G.I. Joe when I was a kid, like, knowing is half the battle.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
ever heard that? Like,
Totally.
knowing is half the battle.
Oh,
Once you
yeah.
know it, then it gives you an opportunity to make a good choice. Now you may make a bad
Right.
choice, but it gives you the opportunity to make a good choice. Right.
Yeah.
So having these conversations like I'm having with you today, Melissa, and just going through like this is daily things that are going on and happening. And the more
Yeah.
education you have in anything, the opportunity you have to make better decisions in situations. So I thank you for that, for
Yeah.
understanding and trying to explain what it is that I was trying to say. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Well, I
Hey,
hope I'm close. I'm trying.
no, you are you spot on. I appreciate you. Now, leaders they want to return on investment.
Right.
Period. Typically, whether it
Yeah.
be financial. So, how can leaders measure empathy's ROI without fluff?
It is a lagging indicator because, it comes after the fact.
Yeah.
You go through whatever you're doing and you see it on the back end. But the thing is if you're actually using empathy, your empathy is going to start to be instilled in the culture, right? Because culture drips from the top down. And
Hmm.
as a leader, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you are always on stage. Whether you want to be or
Yeah.
not,
Hmm.
somebody is
Hmm.
watching. And they're going to emulate what you're doing or take a cue from you or decide this is how it needs to be done. So as this gets into the culture, you start to have people that are going to try to understand and connect with each other. Now, let's actually look at something that's data driven, right? Let's talk about communication, right? Take empathy,
Hmm.
connect to a soft skill like communication. According to the Grammarly Harris Business Report, in 2024, so realize it's only gone up since then, we waste 1.2 trillion with a T dollars per year in bad communication. Most employees, according to that same report, expect to receive some kind of bad communication in the week. 100% of the employees surveyed say, yeah, 25% expect it to be in a day. They expect to get some kind of bad communication every single day. Now,
Mm.
if as a leader, you're building this into your culture, you're learning to understand and connect with your people, and they're doing the same, imagine how much better your communication is going to be, right? Because you're actually
Yeah.
understanding what your people need as far as your communication. You're not throwing a whole bunch of extra stuff out there that they don't need, and you're connecting with them. So you're communicating with them in the way they need to be communicated with, because we all see and hear and understand things differently. Now, that 1.2 trillion isn't necessarily going to show up immediately in the bottom line, but over time, now you've added that back into your profit. I mean, it's gotten so bad that this report said that we lose 7.45 hours per week in bad communication, which they called the 4-day work week. Well, there you go. I mean, right
Mm.
there, you're paying
Yeah.
everybody for an extra day when this meeting could have been an email or whatever, you know?
Mm. Mhm,
So
mhm, mhm.
it plays right back into profit.
That's one of the things, I was reading some book, Wildly Important Goals, is to have better communication, effective communication, keep things simple, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
keep things clear. So I think that's important. I think we try to get in, some people, and I've done it as well. You try to sound important, right? Use these big words and these confusing terms, and just it's not needed, right? I mean, let's keep it simple. Hey, well,
Yep.
could you, whatever you could do to make that complicated, we make it complicated because we want to sound important, and we want to sound, and this is just me. I want to sound important. I'm not going to put it on anybody else. Or we want to sound bigger than what we are. And you
Yeah.
said we're on stage and we're trying to perform, but that's not the performance that your people are looking at. They're looking
Yeah.
at how you treat them, how you treat others, how you handle stress, how you maneuver through these chaotic times. That's what they're really focusing on. They don't care what words you use. They want to understand the words that you use and keep it as simple as possible. And we missed that. I believe I missed it. I missed it earlier. Then I had an epiphany. I need to keep this simple because I'm saying something and you're not getting it pretty regularly. So obviously it's me.
Yeah.
And once you have that realization, instead of like, I'm the leader, you better figure out what it is that I'm saying, or I'm getting rid, whatever mentality you'd have.
Yes.
You need to self reflect. You need to be able to look and understand because it really starts with you. What did you think about
Yes.
that?
Absolutely. I mean, it has
Yeah.
to, and we're going back to self-empathy again. It
Yeah.
has to
Yep.
start with you. If you
Yeah.
cannot understand and show empathy for yourself, I don't think you can show empathy for others. And here's the
Mm.
thing. I mean, I target leaders because I feel I was harmed by leaders. I've seen other people harmed by leaders, and I've seen so many leaders that harm themselves because they're unaware and they don't have
Mhm.
self-empathy
Mhm.
and they don't understand. They're usually very driven. They're highly self-actualized. They're gunners. They got to their spot by doing something. But a lot of
Yeah.
times they didn't get there because they're the best leaders. They got there because they're the best technicians or the best politicians or the best
Mm-hmm. Best
whatever.
doers. Yeah.
Yeah, and they probably know that. So you're already dealing with a little bit of imposter syndrome. You're probably dealing with a little bit of someone who's trying to make up for what they feel they maybe aren't bringing to the table. There's a
Mm-hmm.
reason why so many leaders end up with burnout. There's a reason why so many of them end up with substance abuse issues and all of this other stuff. So,
Yeah.
by actually being able to instill and use self empathy, that's really where it begins because then
Mm.
you can start to bring it to your other people. And the beautiful thing is like I said, even though I target leaders, this is everybody. Empathy is part of
Mm.
the human race, you know? And there's
Yeah.
studies
Yeah.
out there that we're losing it as a society. So,
Oh, I can believe that.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
can believe that. So all right, can you finish this? Finish this for me. If leaders do nothing else, they must.
Figure out how to use self-empathy.
I love this conversation. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, how was it like working with Ray Charles? I want to throw
Well,
that
I
in
mean,
there, right? Because people
yeah,
probably say, she worked with
no.
Ray Charles. Lee never asked a damn question. How was that?
Well, oh man. So the cool thing about working with people like that is they're always people, right? I mean, at the end of
Exactly.
the day, they're people and they want to be treated like people. And I mean, aside from being completely starstruck, because oh my God, it's Ray Charles, and I'm
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I I'm in the band behind him. I'm in the orchestra. So it's not like I'm sitting on the piano bench, but at the same time, I'm working with Ray Charles. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is, by the time I worked with him, he was definitely up in years. And he was grouchy. He didn't want to be there. It was in his contract, nobody approaches him, nobody talks to him, nobody
Oh,
he
yeah.
comes on stage, he plays and sings, and he leaves, and that's it. So, it was super cool just because he was Ray Charles, but there
Yeah.
are other people that I've really gotten to talk to and get to, interact with, and that was way cooler in my mind.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, I get that, I get that. It said never meet well, I don't know if he was your hero, but, never meet your heroes, right? They'll disappoint you,
Yeah.
and a lot of them don't. Like, I heard that in being in the military, you get an opportunity to meet I had an opportunity to meet a lot of celebrities, and you get these intimate interactions with them, like, that you don't always get, which is I love that because they would come, like, to your unit and it's just you and them and you're just having a conversation and to your point you realize they're just people. I mean, we know it. We know they're just people. I think.
Yeah.
Some people go a little bit higher, but we know they're people, but when you meet them it's like, "Oh, they're totally different in person than I thought." And I didn't even really think about what I thought they would be like, right? But they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Awesome. Hey, I got one more. Talk about your book. What's the name of your book, and what can the readers learn about, or what can they expect from your book?
So it's called The Empathic Leader: How EQ via Empathy Transforms Leadership for Better Profit, Productivity, and Innovation.
Oh.
And yeah, I spend a lot of time talking about empathy and how it connects to emotional intelligence. Because the first article on emotional intelligence came out in 1990, which means we have been trying to get this to work for 35 years, and it's still not working like we thought it was supposed to. And I think it's
Mm,
because we're not using empathy first.
mm,
So that's the basis of it. I talk about how it fits in. I have a chapter on AI, which, is there's a lot going on with that right now and the fact that it lacks empathy completely. I have
mm.
a chapter and a half on communication because I think it's that important.
It
I have a
is.
chapter on flags to look for, red flags and beige flags. Like in a relationship, beige flags means, oh, I might want to keep my eyes open, and red flags means run, don't walk kind of thing.
Now is that red in beige flags in other people or other people and yourself? Like, is there
Both.
we okay, good, good, good.
Yeah, because if you watch and if you're, doing self-observation and self-reflection and you see these flags in
Yeah.
yourself, you can go, "Yeah, that's not who I want to be." That's not because in the
Mhm.
very beginning, I invite people to think about what kind of leader do you want to be? Set your goal
Yeah.
high and go for it. If that's the kind of leader if you want to be transformative and charismatic and,
Mhm,
the
mhm.
kind of person that brings everybody up with me, do it, and don't not do it. We need more like that. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's the basis of it because that's the EQ via empathy because you're approaching emotional intelligence through the lens of empathy. And,
Yeah.
the beginning of each chapter, I actually talk a little bit about my story that we opened up with, because I want people to see the damage that this kind of unempathic leadership does. I don't necessarily wanna, you know, go over it over and over again, but I think it's important to
Yeah.
see, there are real victims of this and people that lose everything. And I think people
Mhm,
need to see
mhm.
that. They need to know that because I'm not the only one.
Yeah. Hey, so what's a question that I didn't ask that you wished I had have asked you? I don't know if that was correctly I don't know if that was grammarly correct how I said that, but is that something to keep it simple, is that something that you like to talk about that I just didn't ask the question?
Well, the problem is I'm an empathy nerd, so I'll just keep talking if you let me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know? Um, I think maybe that if there's one thing, it's just, you know, getting across this idea that, yeah, we're talking about leaders and we're talking about leadership, but this really does affect everybody, you
Mm,
know? That
yeah.
societally so there's a couple studies that have come out on that recently. They're long-term studies, and their theory and what they've backed up through all of their studies is that the amount of empathy in college students from 1970 to 2010 has decreased by 40%.
Mm,
And they're continuing the study. It's still going on, just that's as far as
yeah,
but
yeah,
40%,
yeah. Wow.
you know?
Yeah.
And these are our future leaders.
Mhm.
I think you and I are
Okay.
about the same age. You said you were 50s. I'm 50s too. So, we're right
Yeah,
smack in the middle of all of that. And to
yeah.
see, if we don't put the brakes on this, are we going to end up as a society that doesn't have empathy at all? What
Mm.
comes next?
I don't want to see it. I think we'll always, even in those sci-fi movies, those apocalyptic movies, there's always someone who has empathy, right? They usually get destroyed in a zombie movie because
Right.
they just can't. They can't shift. They can't shift
Right.
their mental. So I think there's hope, but it's still a bleak looking future. Just looking at trends on how things are going. Yeah.
Well, I think there's hope if we change the direction now. I think we can do it if we want to change direction and see, oh, that's not the future I want. And
Mm.
that's why I'm doing what I'm doing now because we could turn the bus around,
There
but
you
we got to
go.
turn it
That's what I want.
around.
That's what I wanted you to say. It's to educate people because a lot of times you do things and you don't understand why you're doing it. Like most people aren't doing it just because they want to do it. They're doing it for self survival and interest, right? You got to
Yeah.
focus on yourself. I got to figure out how to do this. I can't devote a lot of my emotional energy outwardly. You think that, but you can. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But you think that because things are a little dire for people these days, and it just that looks bleak, but together, showing empathy, just showing camaraderie, just showing family mentality or relationships with just people, we can get through it. I mean, you hear it all the times. We can get through anything, right? Together we're
Yeah.
stronger. So
Yeah.
there is hope. And I think through education, having these great conversations with people who are just learning how to make each and every one of us a little bit better, I think that's powerful. And I think that will help us to make that turn in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, and what I tell
Yeah.
people too, I mean, I think we're all adult and we understand it's not suddenly
Mhm.
going to be nirvana and puppies and rainbows. I mean, as much as I would be more than happy to be surrounded by puppies, it's not going to happen. But what
Yeah.
happens if we try to increase our empathy by 5%? Just 5%. And then we let that ripple out.
Yeah, definitely doable. Like I said, just and understand it. Knowing is half the battle. If you got
Right.
it in you, if you know it, if you ain't even paying attention to it, you probably not. It's not going to catch. But if
Yeah.
you know it, if you're listening to me and Melissa talking right now, you're like, you know what? Damn, I was so focused on myself and trying to achieve these things, I didn't even consider what was going on around me.
Yeah.
Now you got it in your head, and now you have an opportunity to make those decisions as they come up. I love it. I love it,
Yeah.
and that's how it happens. That's how it happened, folks. We just wrapped it up. We just solved the problem
Done.
because that's how it happens. Knowing is half the battle. Melissa done gave you
Yeah.
all the techniques and the things that you need to know. So when it pops up in your head, don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. Take a moment, think about it. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And then make the right decision for you. And I'll keep it at that. So, Melissa, where can the listeners find out a little bit more about you, find your book? Yeah, where can they reach you at?
So you can catch me on my website, which is EQ via as in Victor IA empathy. And there's, ways to connect with me there. I have a blog. You can always catch me on LinkedIn, Instagram, some mostly LinkedIn. And I have a
Mhm.
podcast called The Empathic Leader. And you can catch that on YouTube and Spotify and Apple and the usuals. And
Yeah,
then my
yeah,
book,
yeah.
yeah, my book is up on Amazon and there's a Kindle hardcover, softcover, and there will be an audiobook version coming out here soon, probably in the next month. And that's Amazon, Barnes and Noble, the usuals.
Yeah. Hey, so are you the voice?
Yes. Yep.
Really? How is that going?
That
I
has
know.
been a whole learning curve. So I've done
Nice,
recording
nice.
before, like as a
Uh-huh.
musician in groups and by myself and that kind of thing. But suddenly to like be the voice in this
Mm.
box creating this thing has been a whole different thing.
Yeah, I love it. That's fun. Congratulations, by the way, on the book and just
Thank you.
carving out that time to put this out in the world and for everyone to just learn one thing, two things, 20 things, right? Whatever it is, right? But just to become a little bit better day by day. That's the goal. And it starts with people like you going out and doing the research and figuring out the things that we can do to get better and then presenting those things to us. It's up to us to make the decision if we choose to.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Dr. Melissa. Right, and she's working on her second doctorate. Come on now. Come on. But
I
anyway.
know. I'm not right. I'm not right.
No, you're absolutely right. But thank you
Yeah.
so much for being an amazing guest on the show today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure, and thanks to your audience for listening and just so much appreciation and gratitude. Thank you.
Awesome. And look, to connect with Dr. Melissa, I want to put the doctor because she's working on the second one, and learn more about her work. Don't forget to check out her book, The Empathic Leader, and her TEDx talks. They're still linking? They gotta be.
No, they haven't actually released it yet because I was up for editor's pick, which means they actually do some different stuff with it. So it should be up soon, I hope.
Awesome. So, be on the lookout for that. Make sure, Melissa, that you hit me up. I'll put that link in there to the TED Talk, TEDx talk as well.
Got
And
it.
also for the listeners, if this conversation gave you one takeaway, put it into practice this week. Today, redesign a meeting, ask a better question, or simply slow down to listen and watch how it changes the results. And if you found value in today's episode, share it with someone who's leading a team under pressure. You never know who needs to hear this message today. And I'm Lee Jones. This is Hindsight, the podcast, reminding you that soft skills drive the hardest results. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Hey, thanks for joining me here on Hindsight, the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I did. And while I have you here, why don't you take your mouse, go over and click on that subscribe button? No, not right there. Over to the right. No, down, right there. Boom. Thank you. Now, thank you for subscribing to Hindsight, the podcast. I'm your host, Lee Jones.